Okay, we're up for the second half of our exciting logical fallacies exercises and lecture. Don't forget, if for some reason you think I'm going too fast, speed up. No. You can pause me, you can rewind me, you can make me stand on my head. Okay, you can't make me stand on my head, but you can at least pause it, rewind it, and have another look. The first one we're going to talk about here in section 2 is the fallacy of guilt by association. Now, in point of fact, you may have experienced this in another form from time to time, simply because of the people you hang around. Guilt by association says that if you share the same qualities with someone who is disliked, we're automatically going to dislike you, and therefore your argument is invalid. If you are in some way like someone who has done something wrong, we're automatically going to assume the same things of you. We associate you with that other person, and therefore you are guilty because they are guilty. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but if you think about it, that one happens a lot. Our example here says, you know, just last week Samantha said the same thing to me, and if you're anything like Samantha, I just don't want anything to do with you. Well, just because someone you don't like said something, and now somebody else is saying it, doesn't necessarily mean that they're a bad person or that they're wrong. It could be that they're right, and you just need to listen. Next one we're going to talk about, it's a pretty simple one. It's called hasty generalization. This one, in simplest terms, is I don't have enough information for my conclusion, but I'm going to draw that conclusion anyway. Students, when they like to make polls for research assignments, when they want to survey their classmates, will often make this particular fallacy. Well, I polled 20 people, they all said the same thing, so it must be true. This may shock you, but there are more than 20 students in this school, and possibly more than 20 people who may have an opinion on the issue. Hasty generalization, too strong a conclusion from too little information. You can't say, well, all 20 people felt the same thing, so that leads me to think, but certainly more investigation is required. Next one we're going to talk about is a favorite of mine. It's the unsupported middle ground. Unsupported middle ground works like this. Let's say you want to buy a computer from me, and I tell you the price for this computer is $1 million. It's a quality product, top of the line, $1 million, it's yours. You think that price is ridiculous, so you offer to pay me $50. Well, I'm shocked. $50 just clearly isn't enough for this product, but you know what? I'm a fair guy, and I think we can meet in the middle. You want to pay $50, I want you to pay $1 million. We'll just make it even at $500,000. Come on, that's perfectly fair. It's a compromise between the two extremes, right there in the middle. $500,000, such a great deal for you. What, you don't think a computer is worth $500,000? Come, my logic is infallible. You started here, I started here, we met in the middle. Perfectly reasonable. While the idea of meeting in the middle is a good idea, it's a logical fallacy to assume that simply because you met in the middle, that what you have now is reasonable and fair. The idea behind meeting in the middle is that the two people will be at roughly the same distance from fair when they start. But of course, in the example I gave you, nothing of the sort is true. Imagine if somebody wanted you to pay $50 for a Frisbee and somebody else wanted it for $1. I don't know about you, but I'm not paying $25 for a plastic disc. Next one is what we refer to as misleading vividness. And unfortunately, in our age today of internet and streaming video just like this actually, although hopefully no misleading vividness today. The problem with misleading vividness is that anytime something happens which is unfortunate and shocking in the world, everybody immediately assumes that the probability of that event is now dramatically more than it was before. One of the most obvious examples and unfortunate examples of this was 9/11. Immediately after 9/11, airplane passenger ratios dropped dramatically. Very few people flying for several months afterwards. When, ironically, the funny thing is, that was probably one of the most safe times to fly in a plane. The airline industry immediately realized what had happened. They started scrutinizing things much more carefully, a lot more security at the airports. But because people had seen a really terrible event on television, the immediate assumption was that terrible event happened, it could have happened to me, and therefore I want to avoid this thing. Well, the truth is that airplanes are no more or less safe. It's just that people have been reminded of a highly unlikely possibility that's always been there. And because now they've been reminded of it very graphically, very vividly, as a result of it, they don't want to deal with it anymore, and so they avoid whatever that thing is. The next one we're going to talk about is red herring. Very, very popular with the younger generation, young children, probably a bit younger than you are. We'll use this as an attempt to win an argument by diverting attention away from what's going on. Say you're getting lectured because you stole something from your little sister. And the way that you deal with the argument, not that of course you ever use a logical fallacy, but if you did, the red herring method would be, well, okay, sure, maybe I stole this from my little sister, but did you see what she did the other day? Did you know about what she did to our brother? That's a red herring. It may be true that little sister did something naughty too, but that doesn't change what you've done. That doesn't change the incorrectness of your action. And so as a result, all you're really doing there is throwing your little sister under the bus for something she did. Well, okay, after you're done getting clobbered for your naughty actions, you'll get to enjoy watching little sister get clobbered for hers. This may or may not make you feel better, but it doesn't change the rightness or wrongness of what you did. Red herring is any time that you try to draw attention away from the issue with something completely irrelevant that you think will provoke a reaction from your audience. Next one we're going to talk about is spotlight fallacy. The spotlight fallacy is in some ways like guilt by association, except that usually what we're dealing with is a prominent member of a group, prominent maybe because they're famous, maybe because of something that they did that, like misleading vividness, a lot of people saw and they assume things about. The idea behind spotlight fallacy is that this member of the group has these qualities, and therefore everybody who is a member of that group must have those qualities, or anyone who looks like that must have those qualities. Every time you see somebody getting mugged on the news, it's some guy dressed like a gangster who did it, therefore anybody who's dressed like a gangster must be a criminal. Well, there's all kinds of logical fallacies there, but the biggest one is the idea that just because someone is dressed in a particular manner automatically means that they have the qualities of everybody else who is dressed in that manner, or of someone very well known who dresses in that manner. Now, it may be that there are some similarities. People often dress like celebrities that they find remarkable and they want to emulate, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be identical and share all of the same qualities. To assume so is a logical fallacy. And last but not least today, another one that's very popular with students is what we tend to refer to as straw man. Now, they call it straw man because way back in the day, wee little history lesson for you here, if you wanted to train a soldier on how to swing a sword or stab a spear, well, the easiest thing to do is to put him in front of another soldier, stab him with the spear, or whack him with the sword. But this tended to have negative consequences on the training. Every time you train, you've got half the soldiers left for the next training. Very awkward. So what they did is they take large bundles of straw and they make them in the shape of a man. And so you would stab or hack the straw man. Because in theory, at least, the straw man probably doesn't put up much of a fight and is relatively easy to practice on. Well, believe it or not, this directly translates to the name of this logical fallacy. The straw man is the idea that I have a point of view and you don't like my point of view. So you are going to misrepresent my point of view. You're going to say that I'm saying something I'm not so that you can attack that point of view more effectively. Interestingly, with students, this tends to happen in the form of grades very often. I give a student a grade that they may not like. Mr. Fletcher, I can't believe you want me to fail. Well, no, I don't want you to fail. You got a B instead of an A because you didn't do the quality of work needed for an A. Well, my parents are going to kill me now and it's going to be all your fault. Well, actually, I hope your parents don't kill you. But if they do, I can rest safe in the knowledge that all I did was give you the grade you deserve for the work you did, and in fact, you're to blame for your untimely demise. All right, we're done with all of the logical fallacies that you're going to need to know for class tomorrow. If for some reason there was one of these you didn't get, your fault. No, kidding. If you didn't get it, please rewind, check that section again. If you still don't get it, still your fault. But make a few notes, write down your questions, just like you wrote down all these notes, because you did write these down, right? Because if you don't have them in class tomorrow, it'll be a little awkward. Write down any questions you have. Tomorrow in class, we're going to talk about, hey, did this whole flipped classroom idea work? If it did, what can we change for next time? And we'll talk about questions you have, concerns you have, and then, of course, you'll get the really hard assignment I'm looking forward to the moans and groans about. See you next time.